I know Les Miserables isn't actually Bastille Day. It's about 60 years after the French Revolution, but still, there's no musical about the Bastille Day, so that's the best I got. Ann Coulter, thanks for joining us.
Thank you. I like having the musical selection match the topic.
Yeah, somewhat. Although, let's face it, the violence that we see depicted at the barricades in Les Miserables is just as moronic and ruthless and fruitless as we saw on Bastille Day. And that's sort of your point in this column, isn't it?
Yes, I write a lot about the French Revolution in my book, Demonic. I don't know why, well, I do know why people don't know more about the French Revolution. When I was writing it, I mean, it's barbaric. It's obviously, you know, Charlie Manson specials and Ted Bundy specials, very popular, like shark specials, where you got all the bloodletting and the violence, really sickening violence, and, in my opinion, the beginning of liberalism and groupthink, and that's sort of the theme of the book Demonic. I sent the French Revolution chapters to one of my best friends, a fellow history major at Cornell, and he emailed me back saying, Anna, we were both history majors at Cornell. How did we not know this?
Yeah.
No, they hide it. So I actually included it in the book because I looked up, I think, all the Ivy League schools, and I only included a few of them. So look at what their history curricula was. And, you know, there might be like one course where they would briefly mention the French Revolution. No, liberals don't want to talk about the French Revolution because it's the history of them. And the fact that they celebrate Bastille Day, it's really embarrassing. It's really just 4th of July envy. It comes 10 days after 4th of July. But it's absolutely nothing to celebrate. It would be like having, you know, the Ted Bundy Christmas special. This was the beginning of just barbaric mobs, fishmongers' wives, led by the bourgeois and French philosophers running out into the streets, often, as with our mobs today, based on rumors that would turn out to be false. Anyone remember Ferguson? And you know, one attack after another these days. We hear, oh, but we heard there was a rumor. There was that one in Michigan this week, the big protest over policeman shoots another black man, and then the police released the video. The black man is shooting at them, not just brandishing a gun, no, actually shooting at them. But because of the rumor, they're out on the streets protesting. And a lot of what Demonic is about that I didn't particularly get into in this book, or this column, was this book by Gustave Le Bon, The Crowd, A Study of the Popular Mind. He's considered the father of the study of groupthink.
Yeah.
I'll write about it in the future. And not surprisingly, he was a Frenchman. It was about 100 years after the French Revolution. Bastille Day was based on a rumor that the impotent, useless king was about to attack the National Assembly. So 60,000 Frenchmen gather on the street. They're picking up weapons, much like Antifa, just, you know, random weapons that they could get. They wanted more weapons. They end up storming the Bastille and killing everyone in
Violent left-wing mob. Violent left-wing mob. And releasing everyone in the Bastille. All the criminals are let out, just like Bill de Blasio is doing in New York.
Right, whom they believe to be political prisoners. Nope. And as I subtly hint at toward the end of the column, you know, the ones who accede to the mob end up having their heads carried around on pikes. The ones who thought that, I quote an Alexander Hamilton in a letter to Lafayette, a hero of the American Revolution, after the storming of the Bastille, Hamilton wrote something along the lines of, I fear the barbarity of your people, and once you turn it on, I don't know how you can turn it off. That's my paraphrase. Lafayette blew it off, and, participated in the revolution, the French Revolution, and 3 years later, he's fleeing the country for his life.
That's right. They turned on Lafayette, too. People forget that. They just like the Lafayette in the Broadway musical, if I can bring it back to Broadway, as always. Show tunes are my thing. And Coulter's are, though, if the left or in academia, if they do refer to the French Revolution, they erroneously equate it to our revolution.
Yeah.
They seem to think just because Thomas Jefferson liked to spend some time in Paris with the babes, that in some way their revolution was like ours. Two distinctions there. First, liberté, égalité, fraternité. That égalité, the equality thing, we were never down with that. That was never the reason behind our revolution. And yeah, Hamilton and Washington, they were repulsed by what they saw there. That's why George wouldn't commit any allegiance to the mob in the street.
Yes, and famously Edmund Burke, who anticipated it even before the storming of the Bastille. He had been a big supporter of the American Revolution, which was somewhat unusual for a member of the British governing authorities, for him to come out in favor of the Americans, but instantly was against the French. Why? Because it was so anti-religious. It was our revolution, by contrast, was extremely Christian. There were Christian sermons. We were very talkative. It was a revolution of Christian intellectuals, and they explained every step of the way what they were doing. That was the point of the Declaration of Independence, what we celebrate. They celebrate a rabble running out into the crowd and committing absolutely pointless violence, which, it's worth saying, did not win them a republic. It did not win them democracy. What it won them is a lot of dead Frenchmen and leading, like night in today, to a military dictatorship. They greeted Napoleon with open arms. Napoleon became an emperor. They returned to a monarchy for another several decades. Then they get an emperor again. And finally, 80 years later, they get a democracy. So nothing good comes out of mobs. And I think the main lesson of this week's column is, do not accede to the mob, do not take a knee, do not fly the BLM flag. It just makes them angrier, and you'll still end up with your head on a pike.
That's right. There's never enough to satisfy them, ever. Ann Coulter, that's enough to satisfy us this week, though. We'll look forward to talking to you next. Thanks for blowing us off last week, though, by the way. I appreciate that.
Sorry.
That was fun. No, it's okay. I checked on you. You were rage tweeting at Mitch McConnell on Twitter, and that occupied your time. I understand how that can happen.
Well, at least it was a good cause.
Thank you, Ann. It's 4:14 on WMAL.
We will make America great again.